I'm very passionate about, and a lot of people in the field are very passionate about. We talk about machine learning, and we talk about the ability for machine learning to do prediction and classification and sophisticated data analysis and exploratory data analysis using machine learning, all of the above, which grew from the statistics field of like doing taking data and doing both exploratory data analysis and prediction from statistics. And machine learning is a much more sophisticated way of doing that. And there's a lot of advances in that.
Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine, and you can find out more information on this at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today, I'm interviewing Dominic Bennett from Attain, and he is the co-founder and CTO at Attain, leading technology and product innovation in outcomes-driven marketing. An AI-focused technologist, he has built large-scale, real-time platforms processing millions of queries per second. He holds 10 patents, advises CTOs, serves on multiple boards, and earned a master's in statistics from Yale University. Welcome, Dominic. So good to have you.
Before we go any further, a quick pause. This is important. Your sales force is one of the most expensive investments in your company. The real question isn't who's likely to buy someday, it's who should be called right now to create the most value. Traditional propensity models tell you who might convert. Our prescriptive modeling, called COPA, tells you who will convert because you called them. If you manage a large sales organization and want higher conversion, bigger deals, and better use of every rep hour, let's talk. If you want your sales team focused on the calls that matter most, visit prescriptivemodeling.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session.
Thank you so much, Guy. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and it's an honor as well. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So good to have you. And so what is your backstory on AI and marketing? How did you get involved in this?
Well, I was an accidental tourist to marketing in general. Right after my graduate school work, if you had asked me, would I be doing marketing and marketing science, I would say probably not. But I ended up taking my first job, which, like many people in your audience and many people in the world, sometimes you just have to take the job that you get. And I did that. It ended up being one of the most amazing experiences. There was, data, and data was, and the amount of insights that you can get from the data, and the people that I was working with who understood how to use data for marketing purposes. I learned so much in that process, and I realized both the rewards of using the data for marketing purposes and also the challenges, right? I always maintain that marketing science and data and marketing are deceptively simple. It sounds like, hey, how challenging can advertising be? However, I found that I've spent a lifetime learning a lot about the art and the science of marketing and the art and the science of advertising. That you could spend another lifetime, you're still not there yet, right? To me, it comes down to sort of like the fundamental thing about human beings, right? There's this notion, if you know everything about a person, can you predict what they're going to do next? Now, there are people who will argue with you that, there is no free will and things like that, right? Well, we collect a lot of data as marketers, and we use that to, understand that person and predict what's going to happen next. Now, that in and of itself is a lifetime of work. Even after the prediction, given that we are human beings, we have a randomness associated with that. We may not, do exactly what you're supposed to do or we are expected to do at this point. So that is another lifetime that you need to, bring to bear. So this is an area that has been evolving technology, touch points, instrumentation of the touch points, lots of gaps even then, and more gaps being exposed when new touch points are exposed. Yeah, I cannot tell you how fulfilling this has been as a journey to kind of get involved in this. And certainly now we're in a much different era with AI being introduced into the mix. specifically with the transformative technology and the generative AI technology. So yeah, this is a golden period at this point.
Yeah, it sure is. And there's some incredible stuff going on. And certainly in marketing, we're kind of, I don't know, it seems like we're at the forefront of how to use AI just because it's so, it can support creative and write so well and things like that. But tell us a little bit about Attain. What is Attain all about?
Yeah, no, the great question. My co-founder Brian and I found co-founded Attain about 7 years ago now. The primary mission has always been the same. What we wanted to do and what we identified is that people are sitting on the best asset that they have, which is their own data. And a lot of companies monetize that data, but they don't pass on the benefits of that monetization back to the end user. They essentially retain the profits. Trillion-dollar companies, multiple trillion-dollar companies have been built based on the monetization of this user data. So our mission was to, first of all, be able to gather and harvest this user data in a very ethical way, in a very fully disclosed way, so the user understands exactly what we're doing, monetize that data on their behalf, and then pass back the benefit of that monetization back to the end user so they get the realization of the amazing asset that they own. Right. So that's the mission that we started with that date, and we're continuing that journey today. We have a set of apps that end users can use, and they bring about multiple different benefits for the end users. End users then, provision the use of their data, and fully understanding exactly how it will be used. And we use that for marketing purposes strictly, marketing sciences purposes strictly. So, your three or four usual applications of this data, right? One is insights into users' behaviors. Now, one of the things that anecdotally that I'd like to talk about our data is we're probably one of the few companies, if not the only company, that understands where people are shopping and how they're shopping. So, for example, we know that a user is going to Walmart to buy their groceries from Walmart. And then they buy their diapers from Amazon, but then they buy their television set from Target, right? So that's an observation of exactly what their behavior is. We're also the same company that can provide insights into why the user is behaving the users based on opinions research and surveys and things like that to the user. We can then codify this into insights for a CMO or their marketing people as to this is what's happening and this is the reason why it's happening, and also to provide access to these users for behavioral change. So if the marketer wants to communicate with that end user, they can do that. And then we provide a suite of measurement tools on how effective that communication is with that end user, right? So we provide a full suite of marketing products based on the data because we have such an amazing understanding of the data. Attain today sits on a breadth of data on a wide variety of people on a large panel that talks about exactly what people are doing both online and offline. And this is very important. And not just that they're visiting the store, but exactly what products they're buying from the store, or if they're just visiting the store from a foot traffic perspective, but not purchasing something from the store. We also talk about a full funnel measurement products suite that we bring to the table because of the survey capabilities that we have. So we know when a brand is, people are aware of a particular brand and what percent of the people are aware of the brand. We know how many what percent are considering but haven't purchased the brand, favorability of purchase from the brand, and then finally actual purchase from the brand or a visit to that store, right? All of this is available within the Attain panel for both measurement and for insights and for actionability, if you will.
Yeah, interesting. And that's kind of, the value that that AI really provides is if you have then really good data with which to mine and with which to add value to that, it can really make a difference. So what are some of the real world impacts that you've seen of some of your clients and customers that are using it, and what have they been able to achieve?
Yeah, I will answer that question directly, but Guy, you bring up a very, very good point, which is AI is an amazing suite of technologies and a technology by itself. but it's only as good as the data that it's being fed. The old notion of garbage in, garbage out really gets amplified in at at the level of AI, if you will, right? Many of us have had amazingly wonderful experiences in using AI tools. We also remember the time when AI just completely backfired, right? That is an area that we are very, very careful about within Attain. We use AI extensively in everything that we do, but it is our data that's the core that powers the AI, and that data and to be able to have that data very clean, accurate, makes sense, and we spend a lot of resources in making sure that the data is very, very good, right? So that's an important point there. Um, some of the things that we've done with the data, we know we clearly show things that are sometimes very, very counterintuitive to our marketing clients. There's a lot of anecdotes that we could give you on that. But it comes down to, for us, being able to show large clients on a very long-term basis how effective their communications programs are to the end users. And we try to measure that with accuracy, with scale, and also to really tease out the impact of that one impression rather than. So the example that I always like to provide is, I'm a coffee drinker. I go to get a cup of Pete's in the coffee in the morning. Let's say, if you show me an ad for Pete's and I go get a cup of coffee, the ad didn't drive me to go there. I'm going to go there anyways. How do you tease out the impact of that ad? And we've spent a lot of time, resources, and energy in trying to completely understand the incremental lift of that particular impression, if you will. So marketers are now relying on us to actually, change their course in terms of how they rearrange their budgets on where to actually plow the budget more and to hold back in certain areas based on the data, the reports that we've provided them. It's very, very fulfilling to see that people have trusted made us their trusted partners in their marketing communication strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, it's funny that incrementality is so critical to making sure your marketing and each of those impressions are working. And it's funny too because quite often marketers will send out a bunch of coupons to customers, and customers is the challenge, is they're sending them out to their customers that were already going to come anyway. And so then if the AI can tease that out, so to say, well, wait a minute, they were coming anyway. I want to send it to those people that weren't going to come, or that those people that are non-customers, and I want to convert them into customers. And so one of the things that certainly comes up with what you're talking about is making sure that you're defining what the business question is that you're trying to achieve, and making sure then that you're actually delivering an answer that really adds value. One of the challenges too, though, in marketing especially, is you've got fragmented data all over the place, and being able to somehow unify all of that. Talk a little bit about that, how you can get that to really, so that it really works together, and can then add value to the company.
Yeah, no, I think this is an area that has been plaguing marketers and practitioners for a very long time, fragmentation of data, right? We often talk about the James Wanamaker quote of, like, I know 50% of my advertising works, the other 50% I don't know where, everybody knows that. The fragmentation is the underlying story as well, right? There should be another quote about fragmentation, which we don't have. We get 50% of the data or 30% of the data, right? That fragmentation, I see it as sometimes by design and sometimes because we just don't have the instrumentation, right? With the rollout of regulations, with the rollout of privacy measures and tools like that, we are going to get gaps in the our understanding of the exactly what the end user is doing. Okay. There are walled gardens that we will not get information on what people are doing without, within the walled gardens. Walled gardens have that information behind their walled gardens, but they don't have it outside of the walled gardens. So that's one area. That's by design. The other is simply because we can't instrument everything at this point, right? So there is that as well. Um, so this is where I think some of the latest and the most amazing advances in AI, both in machine learning and in generative AI, I consider them both a part of a bigger package umbrella of things we can call as artificial intelligence. This is where that comes into play. We now, as marketers, taking can take this partial data about the user, and we can actually start making working with it and make more sense from it, derive more insights from it, derive more actionable action items, if you will, from it, right? So I think of this as the Bessemer process in, taking the ore, iron ore and making the actual metal from it. These, processes are much more efficient today than they have ever been because of the sophistication we've reached in AI technology at this point, right? So that allows marketers now to work with partial data, including companies like Attain. For us, working with partial data, we're very cognizant. There is no way we could get 100% data point about the end user. And we are now able to come up with way better insights than we can for our end clients. And then also to come up with, here's the set of recommendations we have. And we can now also take into account the other side of the equation is we're taking into account the full history of that user, exactly what happened, all the touch points we've seen with them, all the communications that have happened. So come up with a more holistic recommendation of what can happen at this point. Now, it is certainly not perfect, but what I will state is we are way better today than we've ever been in our journey in this process.
Quick pause. This is important for any marketing leader. Marketing must continuously prove its value or the budgets dry up. Marketing mix models provide that proof in a way finance and leadership can believe. And we at ProRelevant help teams answer critical questions. Which campaigns actually worked? Which channels really moved the needle? And where should the next dollar go? With over 20 years of experience across complex marketing environments, we know how to deliver clarity, not guesswork. To learn more, go to mmm.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, it's true, but you did bring up something which is always a challenge: is the privacy and the PII, the personally identifiable information, and the HIPAA data, and then somehow being able to, because you mentioned in an ideal world we'd be able to have, I don't know, a little thing in my brain or something like that that I could track and try and figure out, well, where did guy go yesterday, and what did he buy, the day before, and what's his thinking today as to what's on his, what he needs to buy or whatever. And I don't know, maybe we'll get that far. As marketers, I guess that would be the ideal thing, but I don't think the consumers would necessarily appreciate that. But in any way, and that brings up, this privacy and how important that is, and then being able to bridge that gap without losing kind of the signals that are in there. Talk a little bit about that and how you see that evolving over time.
Yeah, no, this is a very, very important concept. Now, before I talk about the privacy and how that evolves over time, let me tell you one thing that we talked about in the beginning, which is even if we have a chip in your brain and we know exactly what you're doing 100% of the time and we know exactly what you're thinking, we still don't have all the information about you to make the final determination because we don't know how you grew up. We don't know how, who your grandparents were. And we don't know exactly what they were thinking. You need to have a lot more information about you on a generational, longitudinal basis in order to come to the conclusion of exactly what you're going to do, right? So this concept of having everything in front of you is a myth. It's never going to happen. So it's important that we build tools and we build our processes to take into account this lack of full data set by design. That is how we're going to be. It is never going to be full, even when there is a chip in your brain at this point, right? So that's important. Privacy is one of the most important things. We, as companies, as a society, there are very, very good reasons for privacy, and there are very, very good set of people who are very thought through and very careful about exactly what constitutes an end user privacy versus what doesn't. Now, we may not all agree on all the finer points of what that is, but at the end of the day, when we all ratify that this is something that this is, is important from a privacy perspective, you mentioned HIPAA. I certainly don't want to disclose to you exactly what, my ailments are. Don't care to do that. And I don't need to disclose that to any company at this point, or my medical history to anybody at this point. So that we all agree, that's easy. But there are other things. What if there's a young person in the household, and how do we, keep that? So it's a very, very important concept. So being extraordinarily cognizant of being privacy controlled right from the very start, that is an important thing. And that's sort of what we've built the Attain the privacy policy and the constraints on, is to take that into account from day one. All of that, and also being a little bit more forward looking. When we launched Attain, certainly, CCPA, GDPR were very, very top of mind for us. Now we've had ATT, all of that stuff that's happening. We have to be a little bit more, forward looking in terms of this could become a privacy issue. And so even if the laws don't tell us don't do that, we may still, we have as a company made the decision to be more conservative in that area. We have to be very respectful of that. And then the challenge now is, even within the privacy constraint, even within this, what I will call as a partial data set, how do we build very, very sophisticated tools, and how do we build sophisticated AI to then come up with, here's the best set of action items that we could have from that.
Yeah, and that's definitely critical. I think you're absolutely right. And being more conservative than less conservative on privacy is just so important. And because you can't, if and not only bearing that in mind and making sure all of your algorithms support that and consider that, but also the challenges you have in terms of protecting that data, even though you may have some PII data, having a data breach of that's caused by by one of the vendors of a larger corporation, the costs to that company and to you, in terms of your reputation and everything are enormous.
Yeah, no, Guy, that's exactly right. I will tell you, there's a story that or there's a product that I bought, and that actually tells us, to me, that was very informative. As when I started out my career in the marketing sciences, I bought a Sony headset. It was a Walkman headset, and they said, keep your volume down. We don't want you to lose your ears, because if you lose your ears, then we can't sell you headphones anymore, right, for the rest of your life, right? And I thought that was an interesting way for Sony to actually portray this. That's exactly what it is for us as Attain, as a company, and for all the other companies. Let's protect users' privacies, and let's be very careful about users' data, because we don't want to lose the access to the data that we should have access to, because we had a breach, because we lost the trust of the end user at the end of the day. We want to be a win-win situation for the end user and for this company at this point, right? So we want to create an environment that is very trustworthy, that is protected, security by design, right from day one, all the protocols that we have in place, to the best of our knowledge, to protect the user's data from any kind of a breach, any kind of a violation of what their trust is. If we build that trust as a company, and which is what we're doing at Attain, we will absolutely be able to have that relationship with the end user for a very long time, so that we can create that win-win equation for both of us at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And it is so hard to build up trust, but it is so easy to destroy it. And it just takes one thing. And so I'm very glad to hear what you're talking about. Any thoughts before we close? Any thoughts on generative AI and where you see that and how that's going to mix in with some of the analytic AI that you're working with?
Yeah, no, this is an area that I'm very passionate about, and a lot of people in the field are very passionate about. We talk about machine learning, and we talk about the ability for machine learning to do prediction and classification and sophisticated data analysis and exploratory data analysis using machine learning, all of the above, which grew from the statistics field of like doing taking data and doing both exploratory data analysis and prediction from statistics. And machine learning is a much more sophisticated way of doing that. And there's a lot of advances in that. Now, when you can actually start seeing the convergence of machine learning now with generative AI, where generative AI is now taking data, vast amounts of data. Generally speaking, generative AI was about language models, speaking about how I would use English because I speak that predominantly, but certainly there's versions of that for regional languages and vernacular, if you will. But the point is they operate on at the language level. But it turns out that if you operate at the language level, you can actually use that technology to make predictions about what people are doing, which is much more of an analytic field. The convergence of that, how do we put them together, is an area that is very, very exciting for us as marketers. So one simple explanation, a simple idea here is to take the output from the machine learning, a prediction of what's going to happen, and then to come up with actionable items for the marketers. If we know that 50% of the people are going to switch over to your competitor's brand, that's the prediction. Then the generative AI could come up with, here are the list of prescriptions of what you could do as a marketer to do that, right? That's one way of doing that. But generative AI is actually coming up with now the ability for us to generate synthetic data, where synthetic data can be used to train machine learning, if you will. But beyond that, synthetic data itself can be used for, bridging the gap where we don't know something about a user because we haven't instrumented certain things. So here's an example of something. If getting information of who saw an ad on linear television is a little more challenging for marketers. But if we know all this other information about the user, can we infer that this person actually watched this television and therefore they saw the ad? It used to be a machine learn process at one point in time in that realm, if you will, to do those kinds of things. But now generative AI is playing a role in that inference process itself about the end users and their behavior. So this is an exciting field. And people who take advantage of this nexus between generative AI and machine learning are going to come out with tools that are going to be far reaching, but certainly going to be much more lucrative for them as a company.
Yeah, absolutely. And that value add, so to speak, of taking the unstructured or textual kind of data and then adding it to specific individuals to see or make a prediction that most likely this person was watching TV or saw your ad or watched the Super Bowl or something like that is definitely a very interesting area for analysts such as yourselves. Well, anyway, one last question, and then we'll close, and that is, what advice would you give an up-and-coming new marketer that's now trying to coming out of college or university, and then now trying to break into the marketing field?
Yeah, it's a very simple advice, and it's always been the advice for marketers, as marketers, if you will, embrace data, embrace the end user, be maniacally focused on servicing your clients, your end user, and embrace the data that you capture. And now embrace on top of that the artificial intelligence tools that are so widely available for use. And it's amazing to see how the combination of that data with the AI on top of it is really making me think more than I've ever thought about things. There are certain things, it doesn't happen every day, it doesn't happen every minute, but every so often, because I'm such a big user of AI and with the data, I go, geez, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even, it was
Mm.
not really obvious to me. There's something here. Let's go pursue that. So it really is going to be making me as a person much more productive, much more creative in what I'm doing, and my career is going to grow as a result of that. So embrace data and embrace AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And getting comfortable with that when you think most marketers are not really comfortable but with data. But nowadays, I mean, even before AI, if you were going to be successful at digital marketing or at search marketing or even social media, data was critical for that to drive that success. And now then piling on AI, which can hopefully improve that. Well, Dominic, thank you so much. Thank you for being on today. Definitely my privilege of having you, and look forward to maybe speaking in the future. But where can folks learn more about you and your company?
Yes, we can be found at www.attainoutcomes.com. You can search for Attain on the web, and we have a presence on LinkedIn. Come find us. We are always in search of the best talent, best minds. We want to talk to everyone. But we are a company that's very, very pro employees, pro people, pro. It's a pleasure to work here, so find us.
How great advice. Absolutely. And it's fascinating, but glad to hear that you're growing and looking for some great people, and that's definitely what it's all about. So for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing. And please visit marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. We're about to have some really good news about that here in the next couple of weeks about my upcoming book, and you'll be able to see the hopefully the book itself and download it and get some valuable excerpts. And really appreciate it, Dominic. Thanks for being with us, and really look forward to further conversations.
Thank you so much, Guy. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.